Okay, we are now live on YouTube. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the North Dakota School Boards Association April 2025 Brunch and Learn. I'm Sheila Long, the new Membership and Events Manager at the NDSBA, and I hope to meet you all at our upcoming convention in October. I would like to introduce Wade Fitt as the guest. That's actually, I apologize. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Okay, I would like to introduce Wade Sick as a guest speaker and presenter. Wade is the state director for the Department of Career and Technical Education. He started in his position in May of 2018. And prior to starting at CTE, he was employed at the Department of Commerce as the Workforce Division Director. He also spent 8 years at the Burdick Job Corps Center in Minot, North Dakota, serving in multiple roles, and has been involved in education and workforce development for over 20 years. He has a bachelor's degree in social service education and a master's in management, both from Minot State University. Wade's contribution to the project is to engage with secondary career and technical education programs across the state in developing digital badges that would be recognized by both post-secondary and employers. Welcome, Wade, to our Brunch and Learn, and I will make you co-host and let you share your screen with all of us. Could the attendees please put any questions in the chat during this session? Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Sheila, for the introduction. Just let me know when I am able to share my screen, or I can give it a try now. All right, can everybody see my screen?
It's there.
All right, and you see just a single slide at a time, right? Just making sure. I'm not a Zoom expert. We use Teams with the state. So, all right. So Sheila, again, thanks for the introduction. Thank you for School Boards Association for having me this morning. Like she said, my name is Wade Sick. I'm the state director for the Department of Career and Technical Education. I'm just going to go over a high level overview of what career and technical education is, what the department is, the state of career and technical education across the state of North Dakota, and then also touch a bit on career and technical education centers. That has been the buzz for the last few legislative sessions as more funding has come into the state to provide more access to more career and technical education. Um, so first of all, um, like to talk about the mission of North Dakota Career and Technical Education. So, the mission of the State Board for Career and Technical Education is to work with others to provide all North Dakota citizens with technical skills, knowledge, and attitudes necessary for successful performance in a globally competitive workforce. So, I show that for a couple of reasons. First of all, what we are trying to accomplish with Career Tech Ed, since most of our work is in the secondary or the high school level, we are trying to get every single student that is attending a North Dakota high school to be on a career path while they're still in high school. We're not trying to paint them into a corner. We're not trying to pigeonhole them. We're not trying to track them, but we are trying to provide them with the information they need to know in order to make an educated decision on what they want to do after high school, whether that's enter the workforce, whether that's attend post-secondary at the community college level, tribal college level, university, whether it's a research university or one of our regional universities. So we want to get them on a career path because higher education is expensive, and we want them to be as focused as we possibly can get them, so that they are not trying to find out what they want to accomplish once they graduate high school and do that while they're in college. Second reason why I want to show that is we are a state agency and we are governed by a state board. Our state board is comprised of 9 individuals. 6 are appointed by the governor, of which 2 must be a member of the North Dakota School Boards Association. So you are represented on our state board. The other 3 individuals that make up the 9 board members are the superintendent of public instruction, so Superintendent Basler, the chancellor of the university systems, who was Dr. Mark Hagerat. Now it's interim chancellor Brent Sanford, and then the executive director of Job Service North Dakota. So we have a mix of people on our board that are private sector, that are school board members, that represent higher ed, that represent the Department of Public Instruction, and represent workforce, being with Job Service with Pat Bertinoli. So just want to let you know that we are governed by a board, and you are represented on that board. So who are we? So this is our org chart. We're not a large agency. We have 23 FTEs. And we are primarily organized by program area. So Assistant Director Mark Wagner really oversees all the programmatic parts of career and technical education. And as I mentioned, we're organized by program area, which I'll talk a little bit about in a bit. But big focus on programs, big focus on the student organizations. We can't do the work we do without these great people on the 15th floor and spread across the state. So what is career and technical education? So CTE programs blend academic knowledge with real world skills. So the math, the English, the science that's being taught in our math and English and science classrooms, we try to incorporate that. We try to bring that relevance through those career and technical education programs. We've seen so many times where a student is sitting in a CTE classroom or a CTE lab or a CTE shop, and they make the comment, now I know why I needed to learn that in geometry. Now I know why I had to learn that in my physics or chemistry class. So we bring the relevance. Career and technical education prepares students for a wide range of high demand careers. When a school district or a CTE center asks or applies for a new program, we require that school district, we require that CTE center to align that program with in-demand jobs in the state of North Dakota. We want to make sure that if a student is pursuing a pathway, we want to make sure that there is a job opportunity or a career opportunity, I should say it that way, at the end of that tunnel. So we want to make sure that we are not teaching out-of-date skills. And we focus on hands-on learning, work-based learning experiences, and industry-recognized certifications. Those are key parts to career and technical education. You can't learn to weld. You can't learn to be a teacher. You can't learn to be a nurse without doing hands-on experiences, without doing work-based learning experiences, which a lot of times means they're out in the community. And then those industry certifications, we try to figure out how to deliver those at our high schools so that a student, when they graduate high school, they may have a certification and be ready to enter the workforce. So as I mentioned earlier, the way we are organized on the 15th floor in department is by program area. So we have program staff that specifically focuses on agricultural education, specifically focuses on business education, family and consumer science, trade and industry, health sciences, information technology, marketing, and technology and engineering. So we have at least one staff focusing on each one of those program areas and then having support staff underneath them to do the work that they do. The role of those individuals is to provide technical assistance to the instructors, to the teachers, to the counselors across the state of North Dakota and the administrators on how to deliver a quality program, how to deliver a quality career tech student organization. To ensure that those students have the opportunity to engage in those experiences. So I do want to touch a bit on trade and industry, and trade and industry is a unique area under career and technical education. It's unique in a few reasons. First of all, it's very broad. These are just a few opportunities that we have available either at our CTE centers or our high school programs across the state: construction, visual arts, manufacturing, firefighting, auto diesel tech, auto collision. You can read my slide. I don't need to read through that. But the reason why I want to bring that up is it's continuing to grow. The list is growing. We have more and more innovative educators coming to us saying, we would like to start a program under this. One of probably our most recent ones is firefighting. That's happening out in the Williston and Dickinson area, where the center is partnering with the fire department, and they're delivering that education to high school students on how to become a firefighter and getting those basic skills, getting those hands-on skills. We've had individuals approach us on law enforcement. How can we create a law enforcement program? So this group of coursework or programs continues to grow. The other reason why this is really unique is that every single one of these educators comes from industry. They bring that industry background to the program, and we as a department connects them with higher education to help them learn how to become a teacher, because teaching is hard. And you can't just come in and have all this knowledge and start spilling it out. You have to learn how to organize it. You have to learn how to do classroom management. There's a lot of things that an individual needs to know in order to become a teacher. And I think I'm preaching to the choir here. But this is ever growing and really, really exciting. Attached to every single one of our programs is that Career Tech Student Organization, or CTSO. So in the state of North Dakota, we have DECA, FBLA. So DECA is tied to our marketing programs. FBLA is tied to our business programs. FCCLA is tied to our family and consumer science programs. HOSA, which we actually don't manage on the 15th floor, but we do partner with the organization that does do HOSA. HOSA is tied to our health career programs. FFA, obviously agricultural education. Skills USA is tied to all those different skilled programs, those trade and industry programs that I mentioned. And then TSA, that is tied to our tech and engineering programs. So the department manages all of these organizations. The people that I showed on this previous slide, not only are they the program supervisors for all those programs, but they are also the state advisor. So when you are sending students to the state conference for FFA or for Skills USA or FBLA, the people on the 15th floor are the ones that are organizing those events. And it's truly exciting. We are wrapping up our CTSO state leadership program conference time. Skills USA just wrapped up yesterday. FFA always happens in June, so that's the last of our state conferences, but just really exciting. And you see on the slide, those individuals are the state presidents for those different organizations. And I'll tell you right now, these are impressive students. The least impressive person in that picture is the guy that's in the middle in the back, me. You sit down with these students and you're just mesmerized on how intelligent, how driven, how they want to make a difference. Every June, we bring in the new state officers into Bismarck, and we do a week-long training on teaching them on how to become a leader, how to become a state officer, start their strategic planning process for the year, what they want to accomplish and how they're going to accomplish that as the state officers. So it's just really amazing. And we're just humbled that we get to be a part of those organizations. So to switch gears a little bit, I know this slide is really busy, but we're going to get into the data a little bit of what the state of career and technical education is right now. So this is 23-24 data. We don't have 24-25 yet, obviously, because we're still wrapping up that school year. But we had in 23-24, unique students enroll in at least one CTE course, and this is ninth grade through 12th grade, obviously. So you're looking at 74% of all high school students have enrolled in at least one CTE course. And we hover around that 75 to 80%. And this is obviously a number that we want to grow. When I took this role 7 years ago, I was asked, what's your 10-year goal? And my 10-year goal is every single student is a CTE student because every single occupation out there, we can figure out how to walk it back to a specific CTE program. So we want every student to take advantage of that. We had 9,700 secondary students become CTE concentrators. And simply what a concentrator, this is a federal term, they've completed at least 2 CTE courses in the same program of study. So we're looking at 28% of all of our students become a CTE concentrator. And obviously this takes time. You got to become at least a sophomore or junior to get to that point. And that's a number that we want to grow as well because we want students to be focused on what their career path might be. And then we also track our community college and our tribal college enrollment. I know this group is more focused on secondary, so I won't go into detail there. So what's the impact of our CTE concentrators, of our programs? So this is a slide that we are incredibly proud of. It truly shows the impact of career and technical education. So high school graduation rate. We obviously are very concerned about high school graduation rates. We want our students to graduate on time. We want them to be ready for the next step of their life. So 82% of all students in the state of North Dakota graduate on time. So if they become a freshman 4 years later, 82% of them graduate at high school. If a student is a CTE concentrator, that grows to 97.86. So almost 98% of our students that are CTE concentrators graduate on time. So if the only goal of CTE is graduation rates, we're knocking it out of the park. But it's not the only goal. But it tells a story there. Our Native American graduation rate. This is our largest minority group in the state of North Dakota, so obviously we take a look at this. 63% of our Native American students graduate on time. But if they are a CTE concentrator, we are looking at over 93% of them graduating on time. So if you are a school that has a high population of Native American students, figure out how to get them into a CT program, figure out how to provide more access to those programs because they're going to graduate. And I go back to what I said earlier. Career technical education makes education more relevant. You see why you are taking those classes. You're seeing why that's. So it's just telling. Post-secondary placement. So that means after they graduate high school, are they working? Are they enrolled in college? Are they enrolled in university? Are they in the military? So we are able to find 90% of our concentrators are placed doing something after high school. They're not hanging out on mom and dad's couch. And 44.7% of them have completed a work-based learning experience, which transitions me into really what is work-based learning. So when the federal government passed the Perkins 5 or the Strengthening Career and Technical Education in the 21st Century Act back in 2018, the state had the opportunity to pick how do we want to evaluate the quality of our programs. And we had 3 options: dual credit in career and technical education, a post-secondary certification, or work-based learning. And the summer of 2018, we talked to literally thousands of people asking which one should we choose. This isn't something that Wade wanted to do. This isn't something that the department wanted to do. What does the state of North Dakota want to do? And overwhelmingly, almost everybody said, we want work-based learning. We want students to be out in the community, engaging with employers, perfecting their skills that they learned, or at least improving their skills that they learned in the classroom, in the shop, and having an employer help them improve that. So these are the definitions of what work-based learning is. First, either a sustained interaction with an industry or community professional, or a simulated environment at an educational institution. So we've adopted both of these definitions. Obviously, we want students to get out into the community and work with that employer, and like I said, hone on those skills. But we also know that that might not be possible in a small school district where the economic base isn't there. We have to provide simulated environments. So you might have an egg program that builds a shed. That's a work-based learning experience because you were taking those skills and you were building something something tangible. We also understand that a large school district, if you have thousands of students, you might not be able to get thousands of students out in the community. So we really work with the programs to approve what a simulated work-based learning experience is and what we would accept that as. And like I said, 44.7%, and that is primarily probably mostly those community-based ones. We're still asking our programs to give them credit where credit is due, but we continue to grow that. And one way that we are trying to grow work-based learning is by work-based learning coordinators. So about 3, 4 years ago, we had the local CTE directors say we want to try to figure out how to expand work-based learning. We've provided different resources, we've provided guidance, but we kind of plateaued out on what was going on. So what we have created is we have created training and an endorsement through ESPB. We do the training, the department does, and then ESPB actually licenses these individuals, and they become work-based learning coordinators. And so we started training these, we started endorsing them about 3, 4 years ago. And then in the 23 legislative session, we asked for dollars to help support the cost of a work-based learning coordinator. So in 2023, we were awarded $1.5 million, and we are funding currently 16 work-based learning coordinators that are spread across the state. They're primarily located at our CTE centers, and they're serving about 100 different school districts. And what these individuals are doing is they are not doing necessarily any instruction. They are not doing any counseling. We were thinking, why can't a counselor do this? Because counselors are busy. Can a teacher do this? They're busy. So we have work-based learning coordinators spread across the state that are helping industries connect with schools so that the instructor can focus on instructing, the counselor can focus on counseling, and the work-based learning coordinator is the one that works with the counselors and the instructors and the students to get the students out into the community. What we have seen with our 16 work-based learning coordinators across the state is that we've had over 2,200 students complete a work-based learning experience, completely or tied to these coordinators. These 16 coordinators have partnered with at least up to or over 260 employers. We've had 74 individuals actually complete the work-based learning training. And where you're probably wondering, why are you continuing to train them if you're running out of money, which we have ran out of money, that $1.5 million. And our response to that is the more individuals that understand what work-based learning is and what that coordinator does, that's a good thing, because they can, as an instructor or as a counselor, talk the talk with that coordinator and talk with those students to help them understand that this work-based learning experience is important to your education. So we continue to train these coordinators. We have 513 employers enrolled in the Are You Ready Work-Based Learning module, which I'll touch on in my next slide, and 16,000 students are in this module. So you might be asking, what am I talking about? So Are You Ready ND is a platform that we have funded through the Department of Career and Technical Education for about 15 years now. It's an online career exploration platform. Students starting in the 7th grade are auto-populated into this portal, and they can start building their portfolio. They can start doing career exploration experiences. They can watch different videos. They can track their scholarship progress. They can do a lot of different things under Are You Ready? And by the way, the parents have access to it too. The students just have to give their parents that access. Well, about 4 years ago, we added a pretty big enhancement to Are You Ready? And it's called Compass. And the way Compass works is that employers can now have a a uh, a, a login into Compass or into Are You Ready, where they create these career exploration experiences or these work-based learning experiences, and they also can create a profile of what they're looking for if they're trying to hire a new welder or a new CNA or a new production worker on an assembly line. So they create these profiles, and then a student goes into Compass and they create a profile on what do they like? What do they not like? What courses have they taken and did they like those courses? What are their hobbies? What part-time jobs have they had and did they like that part-time job or they didn't like that part-time job? And with that information, what Compass can do is connect students with work-based learning experiences and job opportunities that might be interesting to them. So we have, like I said on the previous slide, a lot of employers are signed up into Compass. We have 16,000 students have a Compass profile, And this algorithm is helping find these students opportunities. Now, this is all governed by an administrator at the school level. So before an employer's opportunity is published, an administrator has to approve that before that student is engaged with that employer. That approval has to happen so the students are safe. And what we want to do is, like I said, get that student out on a work-based learning opportunity. And before a student goes out on a work-based learning opportunity, an agreement must be signed. The student signs it, the parent signs it, the school signs it, the employer signs it. And with all that, what we're trying to do is have everybody understand what their role is, what their job is, what they're responsible for, so that the employer is protected, the student's protected, and the employer and the parent is full aware of that their student is going out and doing this thing. So this is a platform that we're just incredibly excited that we have it as an opportunity for our students. And by the way, since the department is paying for it, every student, every school district has access to it. To begin closing on my presentation, I want to talk about the CTE centers. Um, you'll see on the slide right now the locations of all the different CTE centers across the state of North Dakota, and I have another slide that has some text that explains it too. I do have to apologize right away. For some reason, our map is not showing up Williston. So Williston Basin has an area career tech ed center. This is one of the new centers that was funded through the CTE Capital Projects program. So for some reason, that's not showing up, but Williston has one, and they are serving school districts in that extreme south or northwest corner of North Dakota. So to explain the career tech ed centers, the CTE centers are not anything new. They've been around since the 1970s. For those of you that live in the eastern part of the state, you are fully well aware that Grafton or the North Valley CTE Center, Cheyenne Valley and Valley City, James Valley and Jamestown, Devils Lake, Lake area in Devils Lake, and then also Southeast CTE Center down in the Wahpeton Oaks, Edgeley area. Those have been around since the 1970s, and there's been partnerships across the school districts down there sending their students to these CTE centers for a long time. So starting back in the 21 legislative session, the legislature appropriated dollars to the Department of Career Tech Ed, and this was primarily COVID money to fund capital projects to expand CTE centers. So we approved 13 different applications for CTE centers. Some of these projects were expansions, and some of these were new. So Minot CTE Center, Heart River out of Mandan, Southwest out of Dickinson, Bakken out of Watford City, and Williston, as I mentioned. They're all new centers, and now you're seeing western half of North Dakota having access to these CT centers. So a Career Tech Ed Center, it's a partnership. It truly is a partnership, and I'll talk about the governance of a CT center here in a few minutes. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide access to our rural students of the things that our urban students or our larger school district students have access to and have had access to for a long time. I was a rural student. I grew up in a small town in southwest North Dakota. I had access to agricultural education, home ec, which is now FACS, and business. I took courses in all those different programs, but I didn't find exactly what I wanted to do. Um, I love the career that I have. You know, I don't regret anything. But my career path might have looked differently if I would have had access to what these CT centers are providing access to our rural students now. So we're trying to provide more and more access to wide variety of opportunities because the next welder might be located in the next best welder in North Dakota might be located in Bowman, and they might not have access to a welding program. So we are, and I just picked Bowman out of the air. Um, so in case you're wondering, text-wise, as far as where these centers are located, it's on this slide. So I mentioned Bakken, which is one of our new centers, Cass County CTE Center, which is in Fargo. This has been a center that's a virtual center, so they're spread out across the city of Fargo. They will now have a centralized location for students to go to. Central Region is a virtual center that is housed out of Bismarck, but it's providing online programming as well as work-based learning experiences, really from the Canadian border down to the South Dakota border, that central part of North Dakota. So they're doing great work providing virtual and really serving our rural school districts. Grand Forks is another CTE center that has been virtual and has lacked a physical space. They received a grant and they will have a facility opening up this fall. Heart River, I mentioned, is one of our new centers housed in Mandan and actually has some sites in New Salem and the Beulah Hazen area as well. James Valley is one of our older centers in Jamestown, but they had an expansion. Lake area at Devil's Lake has an expansion. Minot is a new program. Minot Area Workforce Academy is a new center, and they are providing access to some school districts in the Minot area and surrounding. North Valley is primarily located in Grafton, but they had an expansion and now they have a location in Cavalier. So those students that are in the extreme northeast tier of North Dakota now have access to programs delivered by North Valley that they never had access before. Rough Rider is a virtual CT center which serves the extreme southwest, Cheyenne Valley out of Valley City, southeast out of Wahpeton, and they also have locations in Oaks and Edgeley. Southwest is primarily in Dickinson, but providing services to school districts, on that I-94 corridor out west. And then Williston, I mentioned with Williston Basin providing. So we now have 14 CTE centers. We had 10 before, and now we have 14. And you might have noticed in that map, there are some gaps to CTE center access. That is not to say there is not access to career and technical education programs in those areas. State law requires every single school district must offer at least one CTE program. So they are probably doing that through their high school programs, and they're doing a phenomenal job. But what the centers can do is they can scale a program that a high school may not be able to scale. And that's what we're trying to continue to close those gaps and provide, no matter where you live in North Dakota, you should have access to every kind of program that you would want to have. So the work continues. So I mentioned earlier that a CTE center truly is a partnership. This is not a vendor-customer relationship. This is a partnership. So for those of you that are part of a CTE center, a CTE center is governed by an area CTE center board. This is in statute. It must happen. Each member district must have or shall have at least one board member. And there can be additional board members for our larger school districts for a maximum of 3 board members. Um, a center board also may appoint up to 5 community board members. This was added back in the 2023 legislative session. So the number of community board members appointed under this subsection must be fewer than the number of school board members. And the reason for that is we want the local elected officials, those local school board members, excuse me, should always be the majority on that board, because they are the ones that are serving the school districts. So a community board member, they can be people from higher education. So this is specifically for Southwest CTE Center. Dickinson State University has a representative on that board because DSU is a partner in the Southwest CTE Center. Um, a private school district or private school can be a member of and have a membership on the board. So Shiloh here in town, St. Mary's here in Bismarck. If you go up to Minot, to our Redeemers, if they are being served by those centers, they also can have a voting board member on that board. And then somebody from private sector, if an industry wanted to have input on that board, they can also be a board member. But again, the majority of the board must be those elected local school board members. So they are governed. It is a partnership. There is a benefit of being a board member and being a member of a school or of a center board because you have a say of what's being delivered to your students. You also have a say in how the schools help fund that center. So a CTE center is funded primarily with 2 sources of dollars. First of all, dollars that come from our department. Historically, about 40% of the costs of a CTE center, the funds come directly from the North Dakota Department of Career and Technical Education as appropriated by our state legislature. The remaining 60% of the costs come from the member schools. Current legislative statute states that a center assesses fees to a school district based off of their average daily membership or their high school enrollment. It has been the way it has been, that has been in place in statute probably since the 70s when these CT centers were first created. Um, so if you're the largest school district, obviously you're going to be paying for the lion's share of what it costs for that center to operate after the state provides those dollars. Um, what we did during this last legislative or the current legislative session, in partnership with the CTE centers and as well as NDCEL, I believe school boards took a look at this as well. We wrote House Bill 1188. And what House Bill 1188 now does is it allows that local CTE center board to assess their student or member schools in a little different way if they want to. If they want to continue to assess them based on their average daily membership, they can do that. But what 1188 now does is that it allows the center board to assess a center membership fee still based off of high school enrollment, but it can be a lower fee. And then the center board can then assess the rest of the fees based on how it is actually being used. So you can look at the actual enrollment of your center and base fees that way. This really came out of the Southwest CTE Center. This was something they were pushing, and we wrote a bill that everybody agreed to. The argument that they had was the small school districts around Dickinson are large enough that they would actually have to assess 10% of the cost, which could be 30, 40, $50,000 to that center or to that school district in order to have their students there. But if they only have one or two students because this is a new center and they're easing into it, you're paying $50,000 for two students. So what the CTE center in Dickinson, or in all centers for that matter, can now do is they can assess a fee, which can be different for every school district based on how big they are, but it can be lower. So the risk for that school district is lower to join that center, and then they can ease into that use as they start sending more and more students as they see value in those programs. This does put the centers at a little more risk. That director and that board must work harder to get more enrollments. But it was something that the directors all agreed that it's something that they can do. And again, this is something they can do. They don't have to do it. They can assess fees how they have in the past if that's working, and then that board agrees that that's the best way to do it. So this was House Bill 1188. It went through the House and the Senate with, I don't think, any amendments. And I believe the governor has signed it. So effective August 1st, when all laws or all bills become law, this will become law, and centers will be able to assess their member schools for this upcoming school year in a little different way if they choose to do so. So with that, that concludes everything that I wanted to talk about this morning. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I haven't been monitoring the chat. I think Sheila, you were doing that. But if there's any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. If there's anything that I didn't cover that you'd like to ask me, feel free. Bear in mind, I may have to ask an expert and get back to you. But happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you, School Board Association, for having me this morning. Sheila, I think you're muted. Nope. So I do see a question in the chat, and I'll ask that right away or answer that right away. So we have a question: is there any coordination between Are You Ready and DPI's Choice Ready? So yes, a lot of the things that are happening in Are You Ready, as far as the 4-year rolling plan, other things, those things can be captured in Are You Ready, and a school can use that as their data for Choice Ready. What we're working on yet is the data transfer. So if something is done in Are You Ready, can it automatically check that box in the Choice Ready portal so that we're cutting down on the work of that local school district? Those conversations are happening, and we're trying to figure out how to do it because Are You Ready um, is ours, and DPI has the Choice Ready portal. So we're just trying to figure out how that data can transfer over. I believe we're getting close to a solution, and I think maybe some things already are moving over. No, still can't hear you. You might need to. Oh, did I just hear something?
I don't know. Can you hear
There you
me?
go. Now we got you.
Okay. I apologize, everyone. I did put that came in through the Q&A, not the chat. So by
Okay.
the time I saw it, I didn't get that to you. But thank you very much for answering. Are there any other questions? Anyone? That looks like the only one so far. And that came in when you were talking about Are You Ready? So thank you for responding. Um, well, we want to thank Wade. Thank you so much for your for what you do to help students, um, uh, to help them in their careers, and we really appreciate what you do. And we want to thank you for your presentation today, and we hope to have you again.
Love to come back and talk about other things that career and technical education is doing. I know this was a very high level, but I guess I'd be remiss if I wouldn't say thank you to the school board members that are out there listening in and those that are going to watch this video later. You are those people that are serving your school district, serving your students, but you also have your full-time jobs. You are those industry people. So, you can advise those schools and those administrators of what are we doing in career and technical education to get those students ready for those jobs that are in our community and in our region. So have those conversations. And if you have questions on how to make that happen, how to stand up a program, we're here to help. We talked to as many school board members as we talk to school administrators. So feel free. We're here to serve you as well. We lost your sound again, Sheila.
Um,
Okay, so I'm seeing a couple questions in the Q&A. I'll address those. So where is CTE funding in the legislative session? So Senate Bill 2019 is the appropriation bill for career and technical education. As it stands right now, it passed through the House with some amendments. So where we're at with increases to funding, we're looking at about a $12 million, not about, we're looking at a $12 million increase to our CTE secondary line item. So that would grow us from about 41 million to about 53 million. So it's another substantial increase. We got a pretty substantial increase back in 23, and we're receiving another one again. But that's where we're at with the House. The Senate had a lower number. So our bill will go to conference committee and they'll negotiate out where we come out. So I'm hoping by the end of next week we have an idea um, uh, where we stand. Another question in the Q&A, when will we be receiving our 24-25 distribution? We received them in December last year, haven't heard when they will be dispersed this year. So we are hoping within the next few weeks this distributions come out. Our program staff are doing just a few last reviews of some information, and then we'll be able to distribute that. So we are in a bit of a transition in a funding formula for career and technical education. So we're figuring that out, but you can estimate that whatever you received in 24 or 23-24, there will be that plus an increase as long as those programs are still in operation. So we were hoping that would come out earlier, but there's been some delays We're also looking at different platforms for our grant management, and what we had decided on was not meeting our needs. So we're doing a lot of this work manually. So it will be soon. It'll be quicker than in July was when we used to have to do them. Now we are planning on doing them real soon. You're right. We wanted to have them done by December of 24, but just we had those delays. But it should be soon. And I don't see any other questions coming in.
That looks like all of them. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't do anything differently. So I apologize for the technical difficulties and thanks again, Wade. I don't see any further questions.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.